Welcome. Today we journey back to a moment that defied belief, the birth of human flight. This is not a legend, but the true account of two ordinary men, the Wright brothers, who dared to achieve the impossible. Without wealth, formal education, or public support, they taught the world to fly. Their story is a testament to impossible dreams, to building success from countless failures, and to the unwavering spirit of two brothers who changed everything, not by luck, but by relentless perseverance. You will discover how to dream big when no one believes, how greatness is forged through daily struggle, and how to master English as you absorb this powerful narrative. Prepare to be inspired. Part 1, The Childhood of Dreamers, who were Wilbur and Orville Wright. Our story begins in 1867 with Wilbur's birth in Millville, Indiana. 4 years later, in 1871, Orville was born in Dayton, Ohio. They were not from privilege. Their father was a bishop, their mother a resourceful homemaker. Their home was modest, their lives seemingly unremarkable. Yet, within them burned an extraordinary curiosity. A pivotal moment arrived when Wilbur was 11 and Orville 7. Their father returned from a trip with a small toy helicopter, a marvel of bamboo, cork, and rubber bands, inspired by a French inventor. When wound and released, it fluttered into the air. The brothers were spellbound. It flew for mere seconds, then fell, but a profound question ignited in their young minds. Could something larger fly like that? They played with it until it broke, then immediately began constructing their own versions. The dream of flight had taken root. This dream, however, would demand decades of toil, setbacks, and unwavering effort to become reality. They never attended college, nor did they possess prestigious engineering degrees. They were self-taught, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a passion for building. They devoured books on flight birds, science, and mechanics. Orville, at 18, started a printing press with Wilbur's assistance, crafting their own machines and publishing small newspapers. Later, they opened a bicycle repair and sales shop. This hands-on experience was crucial. They were not mere dreamers, they were builders, doers, and relentless workers. They spent hours observing birds, studying the intricate movements of their wings, how they navigated and sustained flight. While others simply saw birds, the Wright brothers saw flying machines. Wilbur famously noted, "Birds fly not because they flap, but because they control the air." They became consumed by aerodynamics, the science of air in motion. This was the late 1800s, an era when human flight was widely deemed impossible by many scientists. But the Wright brothers disregarded these pronouncements. They possessed something more potent than facts, unwavering belief. Around 1892, they established the Wright Cycle Company in Dayton. The income from selling and repairing bicycles funded their audacious dream. Their shop transformed into a laboratory. They meticulously crafted wing models, tested gliders of wood and cloth, encountering failure after failure. Yet, they pressed on, not for fame, but for a vision only they could perceive. They studied the tragic fate of Otto Lilienthal, a German engineer who died in a glider crash. They absorbed every book, sketch, and experiment from those who had attempted flight. They discerned a critical flaw in previous attempts. Most inventors failed due to a lack of aerial control. The Wright brothers therefore pivoted, focusing intensely on balance and control, not merely propulsion. They pioneered wing warping, a revolutionary concept of twisting the wings, much like a bird, to control movement. This ingenious idea would one day revolutionize the world. By 1900, they journeyed to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, a desolate, windy locale ideal for glider testing. Its strong, steady winds, soft sand for inevitable crashes, and sparse population provided the perfect secret laboratory. They sought to avoid public ridicule should they fail. They abandoned their comfortable shop, embraced the unknown, living in a tent, building their own workshops, and cooking their own meals. There were no cameras, no reporters, no accolades. Just two brothers, sand-covered shoes, grease-stained hands, and a sky brimming with dreams. Day after day, they hauled heavy gliders up hills, performed test flights, crashed, rebuilt, and tested again. They conducted over 700 glider flights before even contemplating an engine. This was the measure of their silent, patient, unapplauded dedication, pain, and failure. By 1902, their glider experiments unequivocally proved one thing: they could control a machine gliding through the air. Part 2. The world doesn't believe you until you win. The ultimate challenge, now Lumidee. Could they achieve powered flight? To not just ride the wind, but to generate their own lift. This was a monumental leap. They required innovations the world had never witnessed: a lightweight engine, a robust yet light propeller system, and a method for maintaining stability with self-generated power. No one had accomplished this. No existing textbook offered guidance. They had to invent everything from scratch. Engines were not their specialty, so they read, studied, and experimented. Attempts to purchase a lightweight gasoline engine failed. Manufacturers offered only heavy models for cars or ground machines. So, with the help of their mechanic friend, Charlie Taylor, they built their own. Their 12-horsepower aluminum engine, weighing only 180 pounds, was a marvel of its time, powerful enough to turn two propellers. Every single part was meticulously handcrafted. While designing the aircraft, they uncovered a fundamental error made by other inventors: flawed propellers. Early designs resembled boat paddles, merely pushing air backward. The Wright brothers declared, "A propeller is not a paddle, it's a rotating wing." This was a revolutionary insight. They spent months rigorously testing various shapes using mathematics, wind tunnels, and intuition. Their curved wooden propellers, each 8.5 feet long, cut through the air with wing-like efficiency, achieving 95% efficiency, surpassing many modern designs. They were decades ahead. Their final machine, the 1903 Wright Flyer, was a testament to their genius: a 40-foot wingspan, 605 pounds, powered by their 12-horsepower engine, constructed from spruce wood, fabric, and wires. Control was achieved through wing warping and a rear rudder, with the pilot lying flat to minimize wind resistance. It appeared peculiar, more a flying bed than an airplane, but it was ready. They had built it, tested it, and now it was time to fly. In December 1903, they returned to Kitty Hawk. The weather was frigid, the winds fierce. They positioned the Flyer on wooden tracks, a launch rail system, as runways did not exist. There was no cockpit, no seatbelts, no protection. Just raw wood, cloth, gasoline, and sheer courage. Their first attempt on December 14th, with Wilbur piloting, ended in a brief stall and crash. Undeterred, they repaired the damage, adjusted controls, and prepared to try again. No tears, no complaints, no surrender. On the morning of December 17th, with winds gusting at 27 miles, Orville won a coin toss to be the first pilot. At 10:35 a.m., before 5 local witnesses, Orville lay prone in the flyer. The engine roared, the plane vibrated, and then it lifted. Not far, not high, but for the first time in human history. A powered machine with a pilot rose from the earth, sustained flight, and landed safely. The flight lasted 12 seconds, covering 120 feet. History was made. 3 more flights followed that day, the longest spanning 52 feet in 59 seconds. They had conquered gravity. There was no celebration, no parade, only a photograph and a letter to their father, John T. Daniels captured the iconic image of Orville Airborne, Wilbur running alongside, an image that would forever symbolize human aspiration. 2 brothers, 1 dream, and the sky was no longer the limit. You might assume the world would erupt in celebration. The invention of the airplane, humanity's first flight, yet the news was met with silence, skepticism, and ridicule. Major newspapers, including the New York Times, either ignored it or refused publication. Human flight still seemed an absurd fantasy. Critics scoffed. If it were real, the government would be involved. We didn't see it, so it didn't happen. 2 bicycle mechanics cannot succeed where trained scientists have failed. The Wright brothers faced rejection, dismissal, and insult, but they did not rage. They simply resolved, we will fly again and again until the world sees it with its own eyes. Returning to Dayton after 1903, they did not rest on their laurels. They returned to the workshop, knowing their first flight was merely a beginning. 120 feet was not enough to convince the world. They embarked on building a new aircraft, one capable of longer duration, circular flight, carrying passengers, and public demonstration. This would be the Flyer 2, then Flyer 3. They enhanced engine power, wing design, steering, and stability. Their humble shop became a crucible for the future of flight. Why the secrecy? They were astute. Premature disclosure risked their design being copied and their invention stolen. From 1904 to 1905, they conducted private test flights near Dayton, making immense progress. By 1905, their Flyer 3 could fly 24 miles, remain airborne for 38 minutes, and execute controlled turns and circles. They had perfected the first true airplane, yet still no one believed. Imagine inventing the impossible, repeatedly, only to be unseen, unheard, and unregarded. In the early 1900s, other inventors made claims of flight, most ending in brief, unbalanced crashes. Samuel Langley, a respected, government-funded scientist, repeatedly failed to launch his steam-powered flying machine. Meanwhile, the Wright brothers, without funding or fame, flew successfully and safely. Questions began to surface. Who are these bicycle mechanics from Ohio? The Wright brothers were also shrewd businessmen. They sought to sell their invention to the U.S. Army, European governments, and private investors. The universal demand was, show us your machine flying. Their consistent reply, Weta will only demonstrate after a contract is signed. Our design is secret. This impasse lasted years. No one wanted to commit first, fearing deception. So the brothers remained in limbo, flying in private, awaiting a courageous believer. During this period, others attempted to claim credit. Alberto Santos Dumont, a Brazilian inventor, made public flights in Paris in 1906, years after the Wrights. The media hailed him as the true inventor simply because he flew publicly. The Wrights' prudence and protectiveness led to their being overlooked. Imagine witnessing someone else being lauded as the father of flight while you held the genuine article. It was agonizing, unjust, but they remained silent, preparing. In 1907, a French military group expressed interest. The brothers saw their chance. In 1908, a crucial decision was made. Wilbur would go to France for public demonstrations, while Orville would do the same for the American military. It was time to prove the world wrong live, before everyone. This was no longer just testing, it was risking their lives to defend their truth. In May 1908, Wilbur Wright arrived in France. There was no fanfare, only press, skepticism, and rival inventors convinced of their own superiority. Many dismissed Wilbur as a charlatan, ridiculing his attire. Wilbur offered no arguments, no explanations. He simply went to work. The aircraft, shipped in crates, had damaged and missing parts. Tools were delayed. Alone in a foreign land surrounded by disbelief, he meticulously rebuilt the flyer piece by piece from wood, wires, and canvas. On August 8, 1908, hundreds gathered. Reporters, scientists, soldiers, they anticipated laughter. But when Wilbur started the engine, sped down the rail, and ascended, the laughter died. He didn't just fly, he turned, circled, soared with effortless grace, then landed perfectly. The crowd stood in stunned silence, then erupted in thunderous cheers. The next day, headlines blared. The Wrights are not bluffers, they are conquerors of the sky. Overnight, Wilbur became a European sensation. The world finally began to believe. Those who had doubted now clamored for interviews, photographs, and deals. Kings and scientists visited. Inventors observed, taking notes. Spectators wept as he circled above. Wilbur performed dozens of flights, demonstrating the flyer's range, precise turns, and unwavering control. He proved not just a machine, but that human flight was real, repeatable, and reliable. Meanwhile, Orville prepared for demonstrations to the U.S. Army at Fort Myer, Virginia. The military demanded the plane carry 2 people, fly for an hour, and be safe and repeatable. Orville modified the flyer with a passenger seat and improved controls. In September 1908, Orville commenced his demonstrations, equally astounding American crowds. He flew above trees, remained airborne for 62 minutes, carried Army officers as passengers, and executed flawless landings. Crowds cheered, reporters declared, "America finally flies." Then tragedy struck. During a demonstration flight with Lieutenant Thomas Selfridge, a propeller cracked. The plane shook violently, plummeting 75 feet to the ground. The crowd screamed. Orville suffered severe injuries, broken hip, ribs, leg. Lieutenant Selfridge died, becoming the first fatality in a powered airplane crash. 4 weeks, Orville lay incapacitated. Newspapers question, is flying too dangerous? Was this a mistake? The brothers were heartbroken. Their invention, so painstakingly proven, now instilled fear. Yet, Wilbur persisted in Europe, flying with more passengers, drawing larger crowds, earning greater respect. Soon, the Wright brothers became global aviation legends. By 1909, everything had changed. The U.S. Army purchased their airplane. France, Germany, Italy, and England sought deals. They began training pilots, building new planes, and establishing aviation schools. They were now inventors, entrepreneurs, teachers of flight, and finally, recognized heroes. They founded the Wright Company, employed workers, manufactured airplanes, and trained the first generation of aviators. In 1909, Washington, D.C., celebrated them with parades and medals attended by the president. They were hailed as the men who gave wings to the world. Part 3. The price of flight. This relentless fame, pressure, and incessant work began to take its toll. Wilbur, ever the quiet, serious one, worked tirelessly, traveling constantly, negotiating contracts, and battling legal challenges against imposters. He was no longer just a pilot, but a businessman, lawyer, and guardian of their legacy. And amidst this, an unforeseen tragedy loomed. By 1909, the Wright brothers were industry titans, establishing the Wright Company to manufacture and sell airplanes. They became wealthy, achieving what most would call success. But for Wilbur, success meant protecting their invention. Many across Europe and America were building aircraft using their fundamental ideas without attribution. Wilbur committed himself to a legal crusade, spending years in courtrooms, drafting documents, explaining patents, and confronting those who sought to steal their innovations. He was no longer flying or building, he was defending. He became ensnared in a world of lawyers and paperwork, slowly eroding his spirit. In 1906, they had secured a patent for their wing warping control system, the cornerstone of aircraft control. Yet, rival companies, notably Glenn Curtiss, developed similar systems, claiming distinctiveness. The Wrights cried theft. The courts moved slowly. The patent war between the Wrights and Curtiss became one of aviation's most acrimonious legal battles, lasting years, costing millions, and stifling innovation. Wilbur believed he was upholding truth. Others argued he was impeding progress. Regardless, the stress consumed him. From 1909 to 1912, Wilbur worked non-stop, defending patents, commuting between continents, managing the company, meeting dignitaries, never resting. He remained the thoughtful, serious man from Dayton, but now burdened by the weight of the entire aviation world. Then, unexpectedly, he fell ill. In early 1912, after a trip to Boston, Wilbur contracted typhoid fever, a deadly bacterial infection. He weakened daily. His brilliant mind clouded. His body, once capable of lifting gliders, failed him. Orville and their sister Catherine remained at his bedside, but to no avail. Wilbur Wright died at 45. The man who gave wings to the world was gone. The loss was devastating. Orville was shattered. Catherine grieved. The world mourned. The New York Times declared, "A great soul has passed. He gave man the power of flight and took no joy in glory." Wilbur never witnessed commercial aviation, the use of planes in world wars, or the era of global travel he initiated. But his legacy had already soared. After Wilbur's death, Orville assumed leadership of the Wright Company, but he was forever changed. He found no joy in business, no desire for further legal battles. He profoundly missed his brother. In 1915, he sold his shares and withdrew. Yet, Orville continued private experiments, served on aviation boards, promoted safety, and preserved their legacy. He lived for decades after Wilbur, consistently affirming that the Wrights were two, not one. Soon after Wilbur's passing, the world witnessed a development that would have broken his heart: airplanes used in war. In World War I, 1914-19 planes dropped bombs, conducted surveillance, and engaged in deadly dogfights. The machine designed to elevate humanity was now employed for its destruction. Orville once lamented, "I wish we could have invented something more useful than the airplane." Though they had transformed the world, they had not envisioned this future. As time progressed, the Wright brothers became global icons. Airports bore their names. Their 1903 flyer found its place in the Smithsonian. Stamps, medals, books, and museums honored them. In 1939, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared National Aviation Day on Orville's birthday. Orville lived to see jet engines, helicopters, and even the breaking of the sound barrier in 1947. He died on January 30th, 1948 at 76, having witnessed 2 world wars and decades of aviation's profound evolution. Part 4. The sky belongs to dreamers after Orville's death. The world reflected on their immense gift. They did not merely invent the airplane, they invented a new world. Their courage, persistence, and belief made possible the age of aviation. Millions fly daily, crossing continents in hours. Breakfast in New York, dinner in Paris, all thanks to them. Space exploration rockets, space travel, the moon landing. None would have been conceivable without the first flight. Modern flying machines, helicopters, jets, drones, all derive from the fundamental principles they developed. Global unity, families connect, cultures merge, aid reaches emergencies faster. The airplane reshaped how humanity lives, connects, and survives. And it all began with 2 brothers in a bicycle shop in a small town, with a dream the world scorned. The iconic photograph of December 17, 1903, Orville flying, Wilbur running beside him, is a potent symbol of human courage, of believing in the impossible, of building with one's own hands, and of never, ever giving up. Their story, despite its triumph, carries a heartbreaking undertone. Wilbur never witnessed global air travel or the rise of commercial aviation. He died too young, at 45, his final years consumed by defending his invention rather than enjoying its fruits. Orville, though he lived longer, often carried bitterness and loneliness. He saw Wilbur forgotten, witnessed companies exploit their designs without recognition, and sometimes questioned the ultimate worth of their sacrifice. They married no one, started no families, never truly retired. They gave their youth, health, and peace to give us flight. This makes their story not just inspiring, but also tragic. They made the world fly, but they bore the weight of the sky alone. Let us pause and remember the profound lessons from their lives. 1. You don't need permission to start. They began with what they had: a small workshop, their hands, their hearts. 2. Failure is part of the blueprint. Hundreds of crashes, each a lesson. Do not fear failure, fear not learning from it. 3. Stay silent. Let your work speak. Rejected, mocked, ignored, they simply worked. True power is quiet. 4. Believe when no one else does. Even their own country laughed, but their belief never wavered. If your belief is strong enough, you need no one else to believe first. 5. Protect what you build, but don't let it destroy you. Wilbur's final years were a battle that consumed him. Guard your vision, but safeguard your peace. Every plane taking off, every child dreaming of flight, every traveler crossing oceans, every rocket reaching space. A part of the Wright brothers' dream lives on. Their names endure: Wright, Patterson Air Force Base, Wright State University, Dayton International Airport. National Aviation Day on Orville's birthday. NASA honors them, naming equipment and test centers. The world owes them an immeasurable debt. If Wilbur and Orville could speak to you today, they would not seek applause or statues. They would simply say, if you have a dream, build it. Even if the world dismisses you, calls you foolish, or never thanks you. Because one day, they will fly because of you. This is the true story of the Wright brothers. Not scientists, but sons, dreamers, builders who reshaped the sky and gifted flight to every future generation. Thank you for honoring them with us. Now, go out and fly toward your dream.